Hey everyone, this is Mark, and welcome to the Day Trader's Quest. So, you know the movie or the books, The Lord of the Rings. And I love both the books and the movies there. But in the Fellowship of the Rings, there is that first encounter that Frodo and Sam and his companions they come across. They're on the as just as they leave the Shire, they come across the Black Riders. Remember, they had to hide in the movie. I can't remember what happens in the book per se, but in the movie, I know they would go and they hide underneath the log, and all of a sudden, the Black Riders, they're looking for them, and they've experienced what thought was going to be a little bit of a journey to the prancing pony. They all of a sudden find themselves in danger, and they're not sure what to do. And luckily, that danger passes, but that's their first real jolt. That moment of like, oh my gosh, what have I done? This isn't just a walk. It's I could die out of this. That was me today. I think that was in any hero's quest, in any journey, you're going to come across these moments that you could make the right decision, but maybe you don't. You're going to be faced with trials, and today certainly was one of those. So as you can see right now on the screen, it was not my best day. It was actually my best. It was a great day right up until my last trade, where I got stubborn, and ultimately I paid the price. I came across that peril. Like, that was my Black Rider right there. And so I'm going to talk about my trades today. I'll show you what those look like here, and we'll get a chance to walk through all these. But overall, I'll kind of characterize the day as choppy. I felt like I was forcing it. I think that's a big thing. I was maybe a little bit ambitious to trade. I was a little bit not very patient, and so for me, I had experienced a couple losses. Actually, I experienced three. And my prior rule was that once you hit three losses, you should be out. You call it a day then. And so for me, as you can see, I started trading, and I get a loss around 716. I then get a loss right around 730 ish here, and I take two more losses in a row on BTAI. And I should have called it quits at that point, but I didn't, because you know what? I had money in my account, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go one more time. And then, of course, and we'll talk about it, I hit MDCX. I got stubborn. I tried to will the market to my goals, and I over leveraged more than I ever should have. And I paid the price. The one silver lining of all this, the reason why the journey can still continue, the reason how Frodo and his team had kind of hid, and then they distracted the rider as they were to get out and head towards the prancing pony, is I did get out. I didn't hold this thing. I didn't allow myself to take a bigger loss, because it could have been, and I'll show you here in a second what I mean by that. So let's take a look at the trades for today. Again, could be better, but you know what? Let's talk about it. So let's start out with TPET. So TPET has been on a roll this last week. So as you know, as a oil and gas company, they definitely saw a lot of swings over the last few days. They saw a big drop yesterday, like a dollar a share. So again, you kind of saw Monday and Tuesday, you saw those rises. Yesterday, it kind of started kind of puttering out, and it dropped. And so for them, they dropped down into about 70, 80 cent range. This morning, right there after the open, it started climbing back up. And right as it was getting toward, it had broken VWAP at 96. And right as it was getting towards $1, I said, you know what? I'll take this for the break of $1. And so I did. And I broke $1. It got up to about 103. My profit target here in this case, I entered in, what did I enter in at? I entered in at 99 cents. So my profit target was 109. So again, going for, and my R on that one would have been 89 cents. So you can see I entered in here. It kind of got up. It tapped 103 and came back down. It hit a low of 97. So again, I'm still, and it kind of comes back up. and it gets to about 104, 103, and it can't go up any, like it's struggling. And so I decided to pull the cord and be like, you know what? It is not doing what I thought it would do. I thought as it broke through that dollar, it might rip out a little bit more. It didn't do that. So I pulled the cord. And I consider this a good win. It wasn't a big win, $43, but it was a good win because I recognized when the momentum wasn't there and I pulled the cord. So after TPET, I then jumped into BTAI. So BTAI had come out with some news. It was running, as you can see on the chart here. BTAI went from $1.66. It ran all the way up to a little over two. So I mean that's a pretty good move. That's 30 some percent move right there. And it kind of retraced, comes back down, goes below VWAP. And usually at this case, I'm usually watching those first few candles to see. And I've got, again, we had a red candle there, you can see in terms of volume. But then it peaked back up and it started peaking back up again. And so I decided, and I saw a red candle here. I decided to get in on this candle here, thinking that, okay, we're going to see another push. I ended up getting in and getting out really quick because I was going for the push through VWAP. And I did. I kind of got it as it popped through VWAP and then kind of wicked out. And I got it right at the top of the wick. So overall, good. It didn't hit my target, but I'm glad I did pull that cord. Ultimately, what was my entry on this one? My entry on this one was 207. I would have went for 217. It never hit that. Actually, you'll see more. I did take a number of more trades on this that I shouldn't have taken if we're honest over the next little bit. So BTI, the first one of that, great one. Now, as we look back at this chart, I then started trying to scalp, and that was a problem. This one wasn't necessarily a terrible trade, but it had come back up to that 215, actually more like 211 level. And it looked like we were getting a nice little pushback towards the top. I should have waited for it to actually break into like maybe the 215 range, but I didn't. I got in at like 211 and I got out at like 212 because it didn't do that. And it started coming back down. So got scared, pulled the trigger. I mean, I'm glad I got out, but I should have waited for that new candle to actually, encompass this red candle and keep on going versus trying to anticipate. And that's part of my issues is I try to anticipate. Next one, I took a loss. This is, again, me being a little impatient. This one actually did break. It moved up, and it came up a little bit to, what was that, about 213. So it was getting right up to that level. And so I thought, okay, now just like that last one, I'm going to break this for as it goes up. Maybe I can pull up to 223, 225, make 1R plus, which would be great. It didn't do that. It then came back down, and as it was coming down, I decided to pull the cord. You can even see here, I maybe made a cent, and then I started giving it back. And so I went ahead and I pulled the cord, which I'm glad I pulled the cord. So I gave myself 3 stars on this one. When it didn't take off through there, it means there's there's a heavy seller there. There's something going on. There's a hidden seller there, and so I decided I'm no longer going to hold this. I'm gonna go ahead and sell. But of course, I had to get back in again, right? See, this is the thing. Death by 1,000 paper cuts on BTAI. What was I think I was up like $110 on BTAI. Ultimately, I was up only 40. I gave most of it back. Here, I bought a bounce off of VWAP, and I kind of got a little scared as it hit 204, and I got out at like 206. It did go back up to about 210, and so I could have taken a little bit more out of this, but again, now all of a sudden I got fear loss hitting me. It's not looking too good. So again, trying to base it off some of these technical levels, but again, I shouldn't have done it because all of a sudden, we're seeing this heavy resistance right here, and I didn't see big sellers on the tape either. So that tells me that someone is feeding it in, whether it be they've got a shelf registration and they're selling stocks at that level, or they're selling shares at that level or something else. I don't know what's happening, but I shouldn't have bought in. I was thinking it would get a nice bouncing up, but that's hopeful thinking. That's not technical thinking. And then I took one more loss. I think this is one more loss on BTI as it then rallied back up, thinking on that same logic, oh, hey, it's going to finally do it. It hit it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, it's like, all right, we got to bust through that wall. It never could bust through that wall. And so I went in, and then I ultimately took that loss as it came down to 105, which at the end of the day, I'm glad I did. If we look at BTAI throughout the day, look at that. It is all the way back down to where it essentially opened at. So I'm glad I didn't do that because it could have been really bad. But yeah. So I think the next one is the bad one. Oh no, I did take. Of course, I took another BTAI one, and I took another loss. So that's $90 in loss right there. Here, I bought it for the break of VWAP. That's what it was. Brought this one for the tried to get the break of VWAP. I got it right as it crusted VWAP, and it rejected hard. And so I took it off. So one thing I'll say across all these is I did respect my stop loss very well. I should have stopped trading at this point because that's 3 reds if we're counting at this point. So that's 3 reds all on BTAI. Given back most of my profits at this point. And I should have just said, you know what? It's a $80 green day. Let's walk away and call it a day. I did not do that. At this point, I'm frustrated. At this point, I'm a little bit like, what is going on? I've lost my edge of being able to of kind of getting in on these at the right moments. Something's missing, and so I decided to. I'd seen pop up on the scanners, in this case MDCX. Saw MDCX pop up. I saw it go and start to move, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I want to jump in on this thing because it looks like it's got some news. I think it was some like clinical trial news. It looked good. Okay, let's see if I can do that. So let's talk about where it all went wrong. So you can see it kind of went from about $1.50. It popped. It started going. It was running towards $1.70. I'm like, okay, good news, strong in this case. Let's do that. And so I get in at about $1.68, hoping for a push up towards 70, even just a light push, even up going closer to $2 before it rejects. Because at this point, we're only up about 20%. And then hard rejects in this case. You can even see here when we're looking at the volume, when we get to, what was that? 736, the volume of selling just like doubled, tripled in some cases. And it started coming down. This case, if you think about it, my stop loss, because let's see here, I entered in at, that's my average, let's just say. I'm just going to assume my entry level here is at 168. As it came down, when it hit where I averaged down, I should have stopped out. And I should have stopped out and says, nope, I'm done. I'm out down $100. That makes me a red day. Boo hoo. But I could always fight again. I didn't do that. I said, nope, not today, stock, not today. I averaged down. It continued to drop. Again, I'm doing this on this massive red candle. And I averaged down again and again and again. What was a $1,000 or 1,000 share entry turned into an 8,000 share entry. Comes down, it bases out about 130. My average right now is, I think it was 130. Let's see, what was 140 something, 146. So my average is way up here. Fudge, right? So it's coming up and it surges up to like 136. And I'm like, that's an $800 loss. I don't want to take that. Let's see if I can get up. If it's a $400 loss, I'm okay with it. And this is bad thinking. This is me trying to reason with a market that doesn't care what I'm thinking. And I says, no, let's do that. And so it kind of comes up, sitting around there. I'm really hoping for like a push into the 40s. Doesn't do that. I see there's a massive bid, 100,000 shares, and it starts to disappear. It starts to get eaten away. I'm like, oh no, I've got to go ahead. And I pull the cord, but I pull the cord as it's running down, and I end up getting out at 132. That is a 14-cent shared, a share difference. And even if that would have been, here's the problem. If I had never averaged down, that would have been a $300 loss. Okay, that's bad. That's more than I should be making. But it's also not terrible. It's also not $1,000 loss like I experienced. And you know what? This just goes to show you that hope has no place in the market. because what was $1.32, you likely saw, continued to drop. As we hit the open, it continued to drop. And right now, we are sitting at 173. I mean, not 170, 73. It is down another 60 cents. Imagine if I would have held this, what that would have looked like. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I mean, I can, knowing that what that would be, that'd be about a $6,000, $7,000 loss right there because I was stubborn. So, my moral of this story is don't average down. As tempting as it is, and I have to do, I've actually implemented some new rules in my system now. I'm kind of going back when I added the new capital, I started trading more. I have to go back. Right now, I'm looking at 3 trades a day. Once I experience one loss, one red trade, I'm done. I'm out. If my first trade of the day is red, I need to be done. Now, my goal is to stick to that. We'll see. We'll see, right? We'll see. My goal is to stick to that because really, if I think about the logic here, and this is where my head goes, my pattern in December and even in January was like 1 trade a day I was doing. And I was upping from like 250 shares to 500 shares to 1,000 shares. And I think I was getting very impatient with how much money I was making. I was like, I want to make more. I need to make more. Right now, I've decided to make this my full-time gig is to try to get better at this. And I don't want to go get a new job. I don't want to go back to corporate America if I can avoid it. And so for me, this was my basically I says, if I'm only making $100 a day. If I think about a 10-day streak, let's say I lose 2 of those, I made $800. That's not a lot of money. I'm like, I need more than that to support my family. And so I started over trading. And I think this is what it ultimately led to. It is the moments like this, moments like me holding CNMD, which I'm still holding right now. And so for me, I have to go back and I have to reset myself a little bit here. I have to go back because ultimately the goal is if I was moving in that direction and I was doing like 1 share a day, one at a time, or like one trade a day, 1,000 shares, $100. Well, what if I got up to 5,000 shares and I did that? If I got up to 5,000 shares, I did 1 a day. On the good days, I'm making at least $500. That's livable money. $500 keeps the 9 to 5 away, as they like to say. And if I do it well, if I think about it, and let's say I do 2 trades. So if I'm doing my max of 3 trades, that could be even right there. That's a max of $1,500 a day. Now there will be some losing days, and that's fine. But if a losing day is starting out with a loser, so minus $500, or if it's my second trade, that's break even. If it's my third trade, I'm still up $500 for the day. And I have to keep that logic in my head. If I don't, I'm in trouble. Because in that case, if I make my first, again, even now, I'm going to go back, I'm using 1,000 shares. I'm going to do this for the next few weeks. If I make 3 trades a day, that's $300 minimum. That's if I only keep at 1R. My goal is keep it above 1R. So I could be upwards of $500 a day. If I bring it back and I think about, or if let's say if I bring it back to this level, and let's say again I have a loser. My loser is always going to be 1R, and that's going to be $100. Now I might get a little bit more if it jackknifes a little bit, but I need to get out. Basically, nope, no more. I'm out. Sorry, bad day. Now if I win my first one and then lose my second one, again I'm netting for the day. If I win my first one and my second one, lose my third one, I'm still up $100 for the day. And again, if I progress like this and I can get used to that risk and I can then move it from 1,000 shares to 2,000 shares to 3,000 shares, I've got the capital to do that right now. All of a sudden, what is my impatience to be able to make money because I'm worried about supporting my family, all of a sudden becomes a sustainable trading plan. So I have to go back to that. So my goal right now is to take the next essentially 10 days, next 2 weeks. I won't be trading next Friday because I've got a volunteer activity I'm doing. So basically the next 10 days of trading, which will bring us next week and the week after, my goal is 3 trades a day at 1,000 shares. If I maintain myself at a 60% win rate, meaning 60% of the days are green or break even. And I do 3 trades, with with one max red trade, holding, making sure I'm pulling my one plus 1R out of it. Then, I mean, even if I just do the three, 60%, assuming at least 100, that's $600. Now, again, that's not a lot in 2 weeks. But if the next 2 weeks I do it and I'm at 2,000 shares, it's $1,200 in 2 weeks. Okay, that's looking better. In April, if I start out, I'm at 3,000 shares and I'm able to control the emotions and I'm able to get out. Now I'm up to $1,800 every 2 weeks. Okay. And if after that, by the end of April, I could have finished end of April doing 4,000. And again, that's $2,000 every 2 weeks minimum. If I think about it, because that's just assuming that when I have a loss, I'm either loss is either that 4,000 shares, $400. It's a break even. I made $400, or if I had no losses, I should be up $1,200 in a day. So that's my plan going forward. I'm still going to hold the two that I have. I have two I'm holding right now: ENVB and then CMND. Both, ironically, I didn't realize this till recently, are psychedelic drug companies. Now, the one beautiful thing about psychedelic drug companies is that they're usually microcaps. They usually like to make their stocks burst, and then they sell it off, or they sell a bunch of warrants into it, or do something like that, or convert a bunch of warrants. So my plan is hold on to those, hoping, set a automatic order so that, as long as it executes between 4 a.m. and 8 p.m., I'll fill that order if we do see that kind of climb, and I set it at a reasonable rate based on technicals. ENVB has a nice gap and it's daily, and so I put it right at the bottom of that gap, assuming it might try to get up to that. And if it does, it's still a good win from where I'm at now. And then CMD, similar, bringing it up to about $1.50. So I'll sit on those, but with the rest of my capital, I'm just gonna focus on my plan. And if I'm doing my plan properly, it should work out. So yeah, so it's been a learning day. I've had my encounter with the Black Rider. I'm thoroughly scared at this point, which is good, but I realize there's something here I need to do, because doing, just strolling down the road isn't going to get me where I want to be. So here's to another day on the journey, another day on the quest. And so I wish you all the best of luck on your journey and your quest, on that pathway to profitability, consistency, and most importantly, discipline, because that's the moral of the day. All right. Good luck out there, everyone. Thanks.